everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping in. Today is a big day. Today is probably the biggest day so far, and maybe the biggest day that we'll have in the entire process of working on this car, this Infiniti Q50. It is bright and early in the morning. I'm just about to get ready. Had to get some gasoline in the Jeep for my wife, and then I'm heading to Charlotte, North Carolina, to SOHO Motorsports. We're finally getting the Q50 tuned. I've been waiting for this for months now, months and months and months. So we're gonna see if this little exhaust setup that we got situated in the car does anything, to see if any of my hypotheses were correct, see if we get the results that I'm hoping for, the numbers I'm hoping for, based on everything that I've seen come through this dyno at SOHO Motorsports. I'm hoping, with my modifications, for 330, between 330 and 340 horsepower. I think I can get around the 340, but if I'm around 335, I'll be happy with that. I don't want to break that 270 foot-pounds of torque. I'm more concerned with the torque, because ultimately that's what gets you up and going. And if this car is truly going to be a weekend warrior kind of canyon carver, I want to make sure I go into the corners aggressively, but I'm able to come out of the corners, you know, with lots of torque and accelerate quickly as we head into the next curve. So torque is my main concern. Again, the numbers that I'm hoping for, 335-ish horsepower and 270 plus foot-pounds of torque. Those are my goals. There's nothing super exciting on the way to Charlotte, so I'm not going to film you know, the whole trip up. Not much to say. You know, we've talked a lot about the exhaust, we've talked a lot about the plans and the goals and all of that. So really, I just want to get to Charlotte, get to SOHO, get on the dyno, and see what we can do. They're also going to install the resonated test pipes for me. I want to open the exhaust up completely to see what numbers we can do, and then you know, we'll adjust the exhaust system accordingly. I think obviously I want to be able to pass inspection, and I want to be able to drive the car legally on the street with no issues, and I don't want it to be super annoyingly loud. So we're going to open it up for the sake of tuning the car to see what numbers we can get, and we'll go from there. But I guess the next thing you'll see is the car on the dyno. Stick around. So what an awesome experience at SOHO Motorsports in Charlotte, North Carolina the other day. Before we talk about the numbers, I just want to make a couple of comments. The first comments I want to make are in regard to the resonated test pipes. First of all, they're way too loud for my liking in daily driving. A little bit too raspy, as you could hear on the dyno. We have some 12-inch resonators halfway through the catback system, and they're just not enough to handle that frequency that is produced by the resonated test pipe. So we're going to add on some straight through mufflers that were recommended to me by Nick at SOHO Motorsports. So we'll tone down that raspiness without really affecting the flow. And he confirmed with me after talking about it that it won't have any significant impact on the numbers that the car was able to make with the tune. So we're going to go with some vibrant street power mufflers to get this thing sounding better and tone it down slightly. The other thing about the test pipes, though, was that I was super surprised to see how much of an impact they had before the tune. And we'll talk about that once I show the numbers, but definitely, and it's hard to say how much they had specifically because they obviously were a component of the complete exhaust. We opened up the exhaust all the way back to 2 1/4 inch with just the 12-inch resonators and no mufflers. So it's hard to say what the test pipes had as far as impact goes, but knowing how much of a bottleneck the stock catalytic converters are, I'm sure that the impact was actually quite significant. But we'll talk those details specifically. I'll do an overall review of the resonated test pipes down the road, but let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers. I'm sure everyone is ready to see them. I'm really pleased with these numbers overall, with the maximum horsepower number at about 333 and maximum torque at about 284.4. We get that initial spike in torque right around 2,600 RPM, but it holds really steady around 275-ish all the way up to 5,000, 5,500 RPM, which is great for what we're using this car for. What really surprised me, though, was the numbers we got on the baseline run before the tune and after installing the resonated test pipes. With just drop-in filters, resonated test pipes, and the full 2 1/4 inch exhaust, we were at 319 horsepower to the wheels and 271 foot-pounds of torque. That's before the tune. That's what surprised me the most. Again, I plan to break this whole session down a little bit further into further detail in an upcoming video, but I wanted to get you the video of the car on the dyno and some of the numbers that we were able to get, and then just talk about some of the things that surprised me. So the resonated test pipes had a huge impact overall, and like I said, 319 horsepower to the wheels with just the test pipes and exhaust before the tune. That might lead one to wonder if the tune is actually worth it. It is quite a bit of money to get me from that 319 to the 333, but I do love the torque number of 284. That's pretty awesome. I wanted to get as close to 300 as we could, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I wanted to break that 270 number, and we did that. We crushed it. So I think we proved a point that the 2 1/4 inch exhaust is really going to still help you get some pretty significant gains in terms of horsepower, but it's really going to build up that torque number, which is what we're going for. We want that low-end grunt, and as you saw, the spike up to 284 was right around that 25 or 2,600 RPM range, which is great because that's when we're going to be wanting to feel that torque when we're coming out of curves and trying to accelerate into the next one. It does spike and then kind of drop down, as you saw a bit, but still we're at that 275 point through a majority of the power band, which is where we're going to be spending all of our time on the interstate if we're doing any pulls, right, in Mexico, of course, and also on the mountain roads. We're going to be in that lower end range, very rarely getting up into the 6,000 to 7,000 RPM range. So this is perfect for me and what I'm going for. And so I'm really pleased overall with those numbers. Again, 333 to the wheels, 284 peak torque, and again, it's a spike right there at the 2,600 RPM range, which is perfect. It does drop down a bit, but not enough to really have a significant impact. We're still around that 275, 277 foot-pounds of torque, all the way up to 5,000, 5,500 RPM. So that's perfect. That's really where we're going to spend most of our time if you're doing any pulls in Mexico. or if you're coming out of a curve on a mountain race and you're trying to accelerate to the next one, you want that torque right in that usable, practical range, you know, the 3,000 up to 5,000 RPM range. So it's perfect for what we're going for. Again, we'll do a follow-up video. We'll do a kind of an overall review of these resonated test pipes. What we can tell right away, it's going to be a little too loud, a little too obnoxious, especially for my wife, but for driving on the streets and waking up neighbors and everything. We are, after all, driving a four-door luxury sedan, right? So, you know, we don't want it too crazy in the cabin. We don't want it too crazy and obnoxious out on the streets. And we can tone it down a bit, and we can make it obviously street legal without impacting that tune too much overall. So some things to come: resonated test pipe review, the Ecutek tune review overall. Is it worth it? But some videos to come. Of course, we got wheels delivered. If you follow me on Instagram, One Fine Trek on Instagram, you'll see we got all 4 wheels in now. We're going to be getting some tires mounted shortly, and we'll move on to suspension. So a lot of things to come. So stick around. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up. We'll see you next time.